What is the most effed up thing you saw at a sleepover? Sleepover in friend S basement with 4 of us there. I think this was 4th grade. Sometime around midnight the host friend S dad opened the door at the top of the basement stairs to ask if we wanted snacks. But right as the words started out of his mouth, he comes tumbling down the stairs and hit his head pretty hard. He didn't move for what felt like forever, and we heard from the top of the stairs some delirious yelling. My innocent self thought it was the host's mom, afraid because her husband just tripped and fell. My other friend later explained to me that, no, the host mom was drunk off her ass and pushed the dad down the stairs. So yeah, I guess I witnessed a wife try to kill her husband. Geez, what happened afterwards? Crazy drunk mom calls my parents the next night and keeps them on the phone for over an hour, and based off my parents' reaction I thought I was in trouble for some reason. Looking back, they were probably just questioning whether they'd ever let me sleep over at that house again. Anyway, nothing really legal ever happened, I don't think. The dad was a super great guy. Never filed any charges, just filed for divorce about a year or 2 after this happened and got out. This is of course putting pieces of the puzzle together years later. I kinda drifted apart from that group of friends, and by high school we didn't really talk anymore. I did see the dad at a high school football game. He was with a very attractive lady and looked happy. Not something I saw, but one of my friends in high school told a group of us girls at a sleepover that she'd been babysitting the previous weekend, and the girl reported to her that she was being molested by her uncle. My friend was so upset and scared to tell her parents they were family friends and hadn't told anyone. We made her go upstairs and tell her mom. Her mom called the other family, and we basically heard both her parents sobbing off and on all night. The other parents called the cops, and as far as I recall, the uncle was arrested and spent some time in prison. My friend was really scared she'd have to speak in court, but didn't have to. At my buddy's birthday party, he had a bunch of us sleep over in a tent in his backyard. One of my friends said, "We are all guys, it's okay to be naked together." Well, some of the guys agreed and some did not. I was way too shy to even be in my boxers around my friends at the time. Hell no, I was taking my clothes off. Well, birthday boy agreed. Micro penis. After seeing the other boy's normal sized parts, yeah, he cried. When I was in elementary school, I got invited with my sister to a birthday party of one of her friends. Everything was going fine for most of the night, and then the catastrophe happened. Her mom came down to the basement and was clearly very upset, but didn't explain why. She then had each of us line up on the stairs from the basement to the ground level of the house and brought us in one by one. I wasn't the first in line, but no one was telling us what happened once it was their turn. Finally I was up, and her mom took me into the bathroom and showed me a trash can with a poop in it. She was basically on the verge of tears, pointing to the trash can and asking me, "Is this your poop? Is this your poop?" It wasn't. We never found out whose it was, or at least I wasn't told. We have joked that someone will finally come forward on their deathbed, but my sister and I have since lost contact with those girls, so we may never know. When I was in the 6th grade, I was going to stay the night at a friend's house, but we ended up at another kid's down the street. This guy ended up talking about how he would hump his bed until there was a wet spot on his boxers. He ended up doing this while we were in the room watching TV, and then showed us the wet spot. And that was how I learned how to jerk off. I was 13-14 and staying the night at a friend's house with 2 other girls, when we were woken up by a loud popping noise from her brother's room. Naturally, 4 curious girls went to see what the hell he was doing at 3 in the morning. Her mom came running up the stairs about the time we entered his room, and quickly herded us back out of his room in hysterics. It took my brain forever to register that he had shot himself in the chest. Luckily he survived, and I never had another sleepover at someone else's house again. Plenty of nightmares though. If you do not mind me asking, was it an accident or suicide attempt? He claimed accident, but he had a lot of stuff going on, so we all assumed failed suicide. I remember we did a secondary school bonding thing in our first year where you effectively go to a summer camp for the weekend with the whole year group. About 211 12-year-olds, to get to know everyone. Sleeping arrangements were in dormitories with bunk beds, separated by gender, about 30 to a room. Lights go out in my dorm, no teachers, just 30 11 12-year-olds that don't know each other that well. A kid farts, hilarious, someone else farts, a few others. Then, I vividly remember a distinct sloppy sound followed by a panicked toe. A kid shat himself. I would also like to note, this was not the only public man's shitting by this kid. He did it again final year during our Duke of Edinburgh Award expedition overnight whilst camping. I was sharing a tent with him. That's a whole different story. When I was around 13-14, a kid I invited over to my sleepover birthday party decided to strip down to his tighty-whities right before cake and ice cream. Myself, my parents, friends and relatives were mortified. Apparently it was normal behavior at his house. I had a friend whose dad had a fish tank of piranha. I really wanted to feed them a hot dog, but her dad told me they already ate. During the night I snuck down to where the fish tank was and there was picked clean fish bones in the tank. The dad was down there watching football and he spotted me and asked if I still wanted to feed the piranha. Being a small piranha-obsessed child, I nodded and produced the hot dog I saved from the barbecued dinner we had. It was the most terrifying and awesome thing I have ever saw. Tintin would never want to watch 3 piranha go in a hot dog ever again, least not in person. I grew up in a very rural area of the southern US. A middle school girlfriend was having a sleepover and later in the evening her mom told us the mom could talk to the spirits of dead people through her daughter. She got her daughter drunk on one and hypnotized her. I don't know how long we sat in that room, but a lot of time went by with her mom demanding spirits speak through her daughter. Her daughter admitted to all sorts of terrible things, supposedly dead people's spirits speaking through her. This was over 30 years ago and I still remember it. I remember the mom sitting in a chair chain smoking and her daughter slumped over in a chair, seemingly dog drunk, slurring confessions of murder, suicide, being killed, etc. She told us sometimes spirits would manifest in such a way that her daughter would attack her and tear the house up. It was really strange. Her daughter was a very quiet girl. The things that spoke through her were not like her at all. It was dug up. The dad's mistress came over. Apparently the mother knew of her existence and it had been putting a strain on things. My buddy and I hid in the basement while the wife and mistress were screaming at each other upstairs. Shockingly did not cause a divorce. Woke up to my friend watching porn on the PS3. That happened to me once a good 9-10 years ago. Too bad I was the one watching. Plot twist: the person you replied to is your friend recalling the same incident. Found my friend's older brother's anime body pillow. He had clearly did the dirty with it. 5 of us at a friend's mom's house in high school 17-18 woke up and there were 4 of us. One of the guys there was apparently in the mom's room ducking the guy's mother. The worst part, apparently it wasn't a new thing. The mom had been picking off her son's friends and effing them to make her ex-husband jealous. Edit: no, I did not get a turn. But then again, I didn't make a pass at her. I don't think he knew his mom was doing it. Everyone was pretty cautious to no spill the beans to him until after graduation. When he did find out, he was more disappointed in his mother than pissed at his friends. Seems like a really weird family dynamic. My friend starting having phone sex with her BF while we were watching a Pixar movie. I hid in the bathroom for like 20 minutes so I could convince her I was sick so I could get a ride home from my mom. We were also in junior high. When I was like 9 or 10, I spent the night at a friend's house. I knew his mom was pretty strict, but holy shit did I find out how much. He did something really minor like leave his socks in the living room and she started shouting at him like he left a turd on the floor or something. Then he pissed her off again that night and she wailed on his ass so hard that it scared me. She was a psycho the way she was spanking and shouting at him. I hated her guts after that night. Edit: I have no idea how this guy turned out. We moved away soon after and googling his common name is like looking for John Smith. Also another guy with the same name was murdered in the same town. It wasn't him so it is buried pretty deep. Had a friend like that. Went to his house and accidentally went in the good living room and he freaked out. I thought it was super weird, but he got the vacuum out in order to remove my footprints from the living room carpet. It was in the thick pile. Not dirt or anything, but it meant you could see where I walked. For a second I thought it was funny, but he was so scared of his mom that it really freaked me out. They also had to shower sitting in their bathtub so that they would not splash water everywhere. Super sad that people that crazy even have kids in the first place. I saw porn for the first time. We were watching movies on my friend's TV and fell asleep watching. Must have been on Cinemax or something because I woke up in the middle of the night. It was a porno of a man and woman in the shower. That was really awkward since I was 13 and had not experienced anything like that. I was too scared to turn it off because her parents were up in another room and I did not want them to know I was awake, so I pretended to be asleep. I eventually fell back to sleep, but it took forever. The worst was her parents fighting. They would yell, curse, hit each other, and were always drunk. What is the most ducked up is I stayed there so often that it became sort of normal to me. I did not like it, but it was not something I could stop. I had so many weird and inappropriate conversations with her drunk mother. Conversations about me and my friends' sex lives or about her problems. The worst was when he shoved her into a metal pole and it bent. I did not see it happen, but that pole was like a twisted monument to the violence that regularly took place. All the sleepovers there in my teens messed me up more than I thought. If I told my parents the whole truth of how bad it was, I don't think they would have let me sleep over. Your friend must have deeply appreciated your company though. It is awful that kids must live in situations like that. I was at a sleepover at a friend's house and there were about 10 of us bundled into the living room. Me and another girl were last ones up watching some random shit on TV. Think it was Speed. Anyways, one of the girls sat bolt upright and the light of the TV was reflecting off her face and her eyes were glazed over and she was not responding to anything we said. She then got up and we obviously followed her. We guessed at this point she was sleepwalking. Into the kitchen she goes, opens up one of the cupboards, pulls down her PJs, thrusts her hips forward and started pissing. We stood there in shock and hysterics, and of course, none of us wanted to touch it, so we just kinda shut the door on it. Next day we could not get her to believe us. Apparently had never sleepwalked before. Had a giant sleepover when I was 8 or 9, I wanna say for a friend's birthday. He had all his friends over and his parents had also invited some friends over as well. As the night winded down, we all went into my buddy's room to jam some Super Smash Bros. Melee on his new GameCube. Fast forward to about 2 a.m. in the morning and most of the boys had fallen asleep save for a few of us. I had to go to the restroom horribly. I was holding everything in as I was terrified of using other people's restrooms in fear of making a mess or smelling up their bathrooms, so asked my friend where the bathroom was. I still do not know if I misheard him or was just stupid and forgot the minute I walked out of the room, but I somehow ended up at his parents' door and opened it up full force. My young butthole could not withhold the massive bowel movement that had been brewing and found myself staring at his mother being banged by this dude that was at the party while his dad was sitting in the chair in the corner, getting a blowjob from the other dude's wife. I opened the door so quick they did not even have time to see me hide what they were doing. So there I was, 9 years old, frozen in place staring at his mother being plowed by this man while his dad was receiving head from the other man's wife. I still see their faces to this day. The only reason I know they were swinging as I could see every single one of their faces. They all just looked at me trying to process what just happened. After a good 5 seconds of dead silence, finally the father yelled to get out and I just shut the door. I stood there for what seemed like hours, then finally made my way back to the room, completely forgetting about having to take a shit and just laid down. I laid there all night, wide awake, till 7 when my mom picked me up the next day. I never told anyone and never went to another sleepover at my friend's house or even went inside his house again in fear of having to see his parents and having that talk with him. Too long didn't he read witnessed a friend's parents swinging with another couple when I was 8 or 9 at a sleepover while just trying to find a bathroom. Edit because I have been asked so much. LOL. Yes, I finally got to shit after I returned home to the sanctity and safety of my own bathroom, and it was much needed. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.